Hey everybody, it's X, and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be taking a quick break from all the murders going on over at Karlov Manor for a nice little chilled out quick draft of Wilds of Eldraine. Without further ado, let's get into the pack 1 pick 1. We've got a Lord Skitter Sewer King here, which is a great rare and an easy pickup for us. This is a 3-mana 3/3 up front, so a good body for the mana cost already, but it also gives you main deckable Graveyard Hate with the first ability and an Army in a Can with the second. Fantastic card. Those rat tokens can't block, but they're still great at getting aggressive, and they're fantastic fodder for the bargain mechanic, which lets you sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token to make your bargain spells better. So the rat tokens still have plenty of uses, and Lord Skitter is a fantastic start to the draft. Very simple follow-up here for pack 1 pick 2. When you take Lord Skitter, you might as well take his Butcher. Ratatouille over here, 3-mana 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, you can create a 1/1 rat token, or you can sacrifice a creature to scry 2, draw a card, usually the better ability when you already have a rat. Or, if you're just trying to end the game, if you top deck this later, you can give your whole board Menace till end of turn. So a great flexible card where all 3 of these abilities have some solid use cases throughout the game. So big fan of Lord Skitter's Butcher for the flexibility, and it keeps us on pure black for now off of the Lord Skitter. So I think that's a great place to go, but I don't think it would be that unreasonable to go off color for just a really efficient removal spell off of the Witch Stalker Frenzy. Here, this can often be cast for only like 1 mana to deal 5 to a creature, so it is probably the best card in the pack by a little bit, but not much better than Lord Skitter's Butcher, and this is kind of the perfect follow-up to our pack 1 pick 1, so we're going to stick to our rare here, continue from there. For pick 3, we just get to continue hanging out with the rat pack here. We've got Voracious Vermin, a 3-mana 2/1 that gives us a rat when it hits the board, and gives a +1/+1 counter whenever another creature we control dies. So it's great for getting 2 bodies on the board off of 1 card, and it synergizes incredibly well with our first 2 picks, so this will be a great pickup for us. In a vacuum, by itself, without synergies, it is significantly weaker than the best 2 cards in this pack, which are both off-color. The Royal Treatment, just for being an incredibly efficient combat trick, as well as a way to counter removal, and the Twisted Fealty as a great finisher for any aggressive red deck. But the way we're drafting right now, outside of the vacuum, outside of individual card level, Voracious Vermin is certainly just as powerful as either of these would be for the way our deck is headed, and it doesn't tie us into a specific color pair yet. Now, that being said, we're still much more likely to end up in black-red than any other color pair, simply because black-red is the rat's color pair, but we do still get to be a bit more flexible taking the Vermin. And again, I think it's just as good in this deck as either of these 2 would be because we have so many great synergies for it already. So, start with the 3 rat cards in a row. For pick number 4, the rat train is finally going to end, because I do think we want to stick to black here when we have really solid creatures like Conceited Witch and Monstrosity to choose from, and the only rat card in the pack is the Harried Spearguard, which is a bit weaker. Just being that 1/1 body, even if it is really quick for aggressive decks, I think Monstrosity is just the best of these kind of cheap creatures. And again, it keeps us to just black, and 2-drops are at a premium. There's not a lot of great 2-mana creatures, and Monstrosity perfectly fits that bill. You're super happy to trade this off with almost anything in the early game, since you do get that food token left behind that you can bargain with, or just buy some time with, gaining some life. So Monstrosity, super reasonable pick here. Certainly better than the Warehouse Tabby, which kind of looks like it would fit in this deck, but these kind of enchantments going into the graveyard little synergy pieces have not ended up playing very well in this format at all. The idea is you're supposed to put some rolls onto the board so that when any of your creatures with rolls are dying, you're getting those triggers going, but it has just been really inconsistent and really slow. So I don't recommend the kind of cards like Warehouse Tabby, so Monstrosity still the winner of this competition. Pick number 5, I think I'm finally going to head into another color, which we could have done last pack as well, the Stormkeld Vanguard in green being the best off-color card there. Here for pick 5, we have a Hamlet Glutton, which is one of my favorite commons in the format. I drafted a ton of green in this set, and I absolutely love this card. I think it is essential for almost any green deck. This being a 5 mana 6/6 trample that gains you 3 life when it hits the board. It just really quickly recovers you in any aggressive matchups and flips the game right into your favor. Because if they're beating you down with a bunch of cheap creatures to try to kill you before you resolve anything big, and then you drop a 6/6 roadblock and gain 3, that again is going to make it so they stop getting damage in, and it's so big compared to all the little aggro creatures that you now have just a certifiable win condition on board. So huge fan of the Glutton. You do have to have bargain fodder for it, because 7 mana for this is definitely too late, because the set is a bit aggressive, but we have bargain fodder on every single card that we've drafted so far. So Glutton for green-black bargain is going to be a fantastic place to be. Pick number 6, we get to continue down this path. There's a Sweet Tooth Witch here, another great card, a 3 mana 3/2 that puts a food token onto the board. The tokens that you're creating don't have to be creature tokens like rat tokens to give you value in this format, again, because of that bargain mechanic, and green-black also have some other ways to use food tokens, like the secondary ability on the Sweet Tooth Witch here, where you can throw your food at your opponent's face to do some damage to them, just start pieing them in the face. So Sweet Tooth Witch is a fantastic card, as is the Werefox, honestly, another card that's giving you two permanents off the one card. You get your aura there and the Werefox later, and that aura can be used as a combat trick, so I like this a little better than the Red Tooth Genealogist, but this is once again another card that's 2 permanents off of one body, and every single card like that plays super well in the set. So all 3 of these are my favorite potential pickups here, but which is definitely the best, I think. The efficiency there really cannot be beaten. Pick number 7, we are only 1 card deep into green so far, and there's 2 really nice red cards in this pack. In particular, Ratcatcher Trainee's kind of perfect for black-red, giving you 2 rat tokens and a 2/1 first strike off of this 1 card. This is also an incredibly reasonable card to just play on turn 2. If it's in your opening hand and you have no other 2-drops, you do still want to just get the game rolling and miss out on the rats there. So I think the card's really powerful, it's really flexible, it's really great with all of our black cards, so this is a fantastic addition to the deck, and Flick a Coin is nothing to laugh at either. There are plenty of solid 1 toughness creatures like the Ratcatcher Trainee, like the Monstrosity, that you can randomly kill with this card, which makes it incredible value when you do. Then you're getting like a 2-for-1 there, you're killing their creature, you're getting a treasure and drawing a card. That's awesome, and the worst case scenario is that it still cycles itself away. You just flick 1 damage at your opponent's face, and it replaces itself, drawing you whatever you would have drawn if you didn't hit the Flick a Coin anyway. So flexible, powerful card there, really a lot better than it looks, but I still don't think it's better than a Ratcatcher Training for the way this deck looks right now. Pick 8, we're finally starting to get to some of the weaker, less exciting packs here. There's only one option I'm really that interested in here, and it's Brave the Wilds, because it's giving us an effect that's a lot less replaceable than anything else in this pack. It's basically this versus a bunch of mediocre filler creatures at their respective mana costs that you can absolutely play if you don't have other better creatures, but Brave the Wild is a much less replaceable card, giving you mana fixing if you end up playing a splashy 3 or 4 color deck. So we'll take the Brave the Wilds here. I do want to mention, though, Dark Tutelage, that is on color to our main color here, so you might consider it as a pickup. My issue with this card is that the format has a lot of aggressive decks. If you're playing against red-black, red-white, red-green, anything with red in it, really, this card is a huge liability, even if you do have a lot of bargain to try to sacrifice it later in the game. If you've ended up taking somewhere between like 2 to 7 damage from this in the first couple turns, it's still kind of too late to bargain it away to stop that life gain. That extra damage has probably already won your opponent the game, so bit of a liability there with Dark Tutelage in the wrong matchup, so I'm not a big fan of trying that out in the main deck. It could be fun in best 2 out of 3 for sure. Unfortunately, quick drafts are only best of 1. Pick 9. This is pretty crazy late for Hollow Scavenger. I think this is a fantastic card again for the green-black strategy. You have a lot of great bargain cards in this archetype, and a lot of other ways to use your food tokens, as you can see with Scavenger's ability, buffing itself with your food getting sacrificed. So this works great with everything we have right now, in particular the Sweet Tooth Witch and the Monstrosity being premium cards to work alongside this. Ruby is probably tied for Scavenger as one of the strongest cards in this pack. It's just pretty impossible that we end up in specifically red-green. Black is definitely going to be a core color of this deck, if not the core color of the deck, the most heavily played color. Pick number 10, we've got that Genealogist right back here, and we are heading deeper into green, so I'm perfectly happy with that. I don't think Raid Bombardment is completely unplayable, but it is pretty narrow. You want to be insanely good at making rat tokens for this card to be good, which we kind of are headed in that direction. But since I am 3 cards deep into green, and Genealogist is just kind of always solid for your green decks, I'm just going to roll with that. It's a much safer pick. All right, pick 11. Territorial Witchstalker is not a card I'm a super big fan of. It's fine in green-red, where you are playing plenty of power 4 or greater creatures, but not super playable in much else. We only have 1 creature that would let it attack right now, which is the Hamlet Glutton. So I will speculate back towards red with Twisted Fealty, which is a great way to end the game. Particularly good in this format because a lot of the slower decks, their best plays, blue and green are the slowest colors in the format, and their best plays against your more aggressive strategies are going to be playing something like a Hamlet Glutton, a 6/6 that gains you 3 life, or a Balluna's Gatekeeper out of blue. That's just a 6/5 that bounced something earlier in the game. And when your opponent's trying to stabilize by playing a 6/6 trample, that's when Twisted Fealty just completely crushes them because you trample over their blocks and steal their biggest blocker. But even against those blue grindy decks, when their plan to stabilize is to play a 6/5 and have that block well, and then you get rid of the blocker for a turn and you're attacking them for 7 more damage than they thought, it's another great way to end the game. So this card just lines up very well. Here we can take Ferocious Werefox again for more rolls, more tokens in general for the green-black bargain stuff. I'm not a massive fan of Bruiser. I find it to be a very filler creature, and Corvald and the Noble Thief is a bit too random for me, trying to cast stuff out of our opponent's deck off of some treasure tokens. It's cool, but it is quite high variance. Pick 13, we can take a Verdant Outrider in case we get a million cards that want power 4 or greater creatures, but this is quite often cut, because you don't end up in that kind of strategy too often. And then Rhyme for Reindeer is obviously just off color. For pack 2, pick 1, we have a lot of options here. We are so deep into green now that I think we're pretty locked in on green-black, so that leaves us with 2 really good synergistic options. And another card that's pretty good in the right deck, but I don't think this is the right deck. So the Tanglespan Lookout is the one that I think isn't in the top 2 here. It's just out of reach because we don't have that many roll token producers, which is what this card really synergizes with and gets a lot of card draw going. But 2 cards that are super great for this deck are Elvish Archivist. So every time we play a food token, once per turn, we'll get 2 +1/+1 counters onto the Archivist, and anytime we play a roll token, we'll get to draw a card. So pretty good because we already have a lot of food and we do have a little bit of rolls, but I think the slightly better card, just because it works all by itself without any synergies, the Archivist, if you don't manage to draw into synergies, it just sits there as a 0/1 and you're very sad. But the Welcome to Sweet Tooth is a card that can absolutely pop off and be busted for its mana cost when you do hit other food token producers, and when you don't, all by itself, it's still a fantastic card. It is a saga, so it's all going to happen over the course of 3 turns, but essentially, you're getting a 1/1, a food token, and 2 +1/+1 counters minimum. So by itself, you can put those 2 +1/+1 counters onto your 1/1, so you're spending 2 mana for a 3/3 and a food token, which is an absurd deal, and that's if you've done nothing synergistic with it. If you go turn 1 Bakery Raid off of your Hollow Scavenger into turn 2 Welcome to Sweet Tooth, that is like the dream start. And you could even continue that if you're super lucky, where turn 3, you are now triggering this to get the food token from it, and then you play another food provider like a Sweet Tooth Witch. That is the magical Christmas Land play. But even playing, turn 1 Bakery Raid into turn 2 Welcome to Sweet Tooth, or turn 2 Welcome to Sweet Tooth into turn 3 Sweet Tooth Witch, even if you have only one of the 2 cards that spits out another food token, you're still making this 2 mana for a 4/4 and a food, which is completely busted as well. So this card is just so good and so easy to make it busted that I'm going to take it over Elvish Archivist, which can be more impactful if you do manage to keep it around for the course of a pretty long game, but the Sweet Tooth just kind of immediately hits the board with that great value, doesn't need you to draw into any synergies to be good. It's just more consistent, and consistency is often the king. For pack 2, pick 2, since we are kind of locked into green-black now, we're down to just a bunch of solid filler. That's about it. Cards like Scream Puff for late game finisher, Fell Horseman for decent value, Ferocious Werefox for decent value. Ariet's Tempting Apple being a great finisher for really aggressive decks. A little bit less good for green-black because we're more mid-rangey where we're slamming down really big creatures in the late game anyway, rather than trying to steal a game from our opponent out of nowhere by clearing out a blocker. Card is still powerful enough that it's definitely up there with these other options, because none of these cards, again, are premium, they're just solid filler. So I think at this point we want to see what our deck is really missing, now that we have decided our archetype. We're pretty locked in there. Looks like we're definitely missing 2 drops, so if there was a filler 2-mana creature, we'd absolutely take it here, but there is not. And that's kind of it. That and non-creature spells. So Tempting Apple for the flexibility of ripping a blocker out of the way and getting the finish does make it a little more interactive than just, like our 13th creature at this point? Yeah, every other card we've taken is a creature here, so I suppose Tempting Apple is more of the kind of card we're missing out on, or even Leaping Ambush for a fine, cheap little combat trick. One of the non-creature spells, I think, is what the deck is lacking right now in terms of adding more filler in, so we'll take the Tempting Apple here. Pack 2, pick 3, we have a Hollow Scavenger, a Ferocious Werefox, and a Stingblade Assassin. The best of these 3 for this strategy definitely being that Hollow Scavenger to work excellently. With our Welcome to Sweet Tooth, it's also a cheaper, more efficient way to get a token and a creature on the board than the Werefox, so even without many food synergies, I'd usually take the Scavenger before the Werefox. So we'll grab that. Pack 2, pick number 4, there's another Werefox. There's a Ginger Brute, which is fine when you have a lot of food synergies. So if we had like 2 Welcome to Sweet Tooths, we'd actually be pretty happy with this, because then you can get these cute little curves of Ginger Brute into the Welcome to Sweet Tooth, then throw all the +1/+1 counters onto the Ginger Brute, so you have like an unblockable creature with a bunch of counters on it. So that'd be pretty cute. But we could also take Root Rider Fawn, which is a super fun card for green-black mid-rangey decks, because it's going to ramp you up into your late cards, and it's going to let you just splash in some random off-color bombs if you open any up, or if you get past them. So I'm actually pretty high on Root Rider Fawn to where I'll take that over Ginger Brute, but Ginger Brute would be quite fun in this archetype as well. Pick number 5. Unfortunately, looks like the bots on our left are really soaking up some green-black cards. I suppose at this point, still not much of a fan of the Territorial Witch Stalker. I'd rather grab a Fell Horseman for solid late-game value. So I'll take that. Just some graveyard recursion stacked onto a creature, so pretty good there. Yeah, wow, this direction is not good for us. We are not going to play a Commune with Nature, basically at all. So I'll just hate draft an Ash from a bot. It's time to bully the robots. Pick number 7. Well, we already have a Root Rider Fawn for randomly splashing stuff in. We could take a Scarecrow Guide to continue down that direction. Then we would have Root Rider Fawn, Scarecrow Guide, and Brave the Wilds towards that. Nothing we have is splashable yet, but leaves us pretty open mana-wise. Alternatively, we're so low on non-creature spells that we might have to just play some random combat tricks like Titanic Growth to give our deck some more flexibility, some more reach to get around our opponent's big blockers and stuff like that. But I do like the idea of just really having a lot of fixing if anything cool pops up. So we'll take the Scarecrow Guide. And now we can start taking some filler combat tricks like Leaping Ambush. Be perfectly fine. Here's a Prophetic Prism, which usually you don't really want to run in this format, because again, the aggressive matchups, taking a turn off to not actually play a blocker or anything is not great. But if we get something really powerful to splash in, we can play that. Here's another Leaping Ambush to up that non-creature count. We could try the Vampiric Rites, but I'm not the biggest fan of that because it does take a lot of time to get your value out of it, but we do have Rat Token production, so maybe that over Leaping Ambush would have been fine. I don't think either would be incredible cards. All right, so I mean, we've got some mediocre filler like Verdant Outrider, Prophetic Prism right now, but we're at 20 out of 23 cards. So if we get 6 or 7 playables, we can probably streamline this deck and make it super powerful. And if we get at least 3, we have a deck. So we're in a pretty decent spot here. If we get like 6+ playables, we'll have a great deck. If we find 3 to 5, we'll have a deck at the ready. We'll see how things go for us. And for pack 3, pick 1. We are incredibly low on removal, which is awkward here because we have 2 really good options outside of the premium removal. I kind of feel like with what our deck is lacking right now, what our deck is missing out on, we have to take this Candy Grapple, 2 mana -3/-3, or bargain for -5/-5. But Lord, would I love a Restless Cottage in here for mana fixing and some flood prevention. Being able to start beating down with this as a creature if you have nothing else to do with your mana is fantastic. And Twisted Sewer Witch leads into some insane balmy curves if we get to play a Lord Skitter and a Lord Skitter's Butcher and then a Sewer Witch. But we do only have the 3 rat producing cards, I should say, to go with it. So it's not the scariest Sewer Witch deck ever, like a black-red deck would be, but it's still a really powerful card and a really nice one for this deck. Again, because of what we're missing here, I don't think we can afford to not take Candy Grapple. I just would love these 2 cards in this deck as well, so I'm a little sad about it. Pack 3, pick 2's pretty unfortunate. We basically are immediately down to the filler. I do think Genealogist is good filler, but we have so many 3-mana creatures that it doesn't matter. It would get cut anyway, ideally. Return from the Wilds gives us more random fixing, but we don't have much to ramp into, and we already have plenty of fixing anyway. Yeah, it's just a rough pack for us. We could take like Grim Search to try to dig for whatever we need, which is kind of fun, kind of cute, but it's not super great at what it's doing. I guess it's the most unique card out of everything here. We already have fixing. We don't need ramp. We already have a million 3-mana cards. Take the Grim Search to give us that option. It will probably get cut, but the other ones are almost 100% to get cut anyway. And they're not filling a role that we don't have access to right now. Pack 3, pick 3 will be quite a difficult pick because we're low enough on removal that Shatter the Oath is super playable here, but we also have one of the cards that I take higher than almost anything else in the set in this pack, which is Utopia Sprawl. 1 mana ramp is incredible. Being able to play your 3-mana cards on turn 2 is fantastic. And this is 1 mana ramp that also fixes you and it's hard to interact with. Your opponent's going to have a lot more ways to blow up creatures like a Llanowar Elf, so 1 mana 1/1 that taps for green, than they are ways to blow up enchantments like Utopia Sprawl. So this thing is just incredible, and it looks really good in this deck. While we don't need the fixing to hit a 3rd color, it's still pretty great to start playing 3-mana cards on turn 2 when we have this many 3-mana cards. So I'm going to take Utopia Sprawl over Shatter the Oath for the sheer power of it. And if these weren't in the pack, there's still a Root Rider Fawn for more ramp and fixing and another 2-drop, which this deck could definitely use. This pack's really good, so sad to see it clumped up there. And now for pick number 4, the clump is gone and there's only 1 good card for us, which is Ferocious Werefox. Perfectly fine, though. Pick 5, we found more removal. We got there. It's not a removal spell I'm a super big fan of. Most green removal has some pretty big flaws where if your opponent has instant speed interaction to bounce your creature or destroy your creature in response, they'll completely counter your removal spell and get a sick 2-for-1 on you. So that downside is pretty massive to almost any green removal spell, but when your opponent is tapped out, this is still a fantastic removal spell. You kill their creature and buff yours, and it's certainly playable when we only have 1 other piece of removal. So Curse of the Werefox it is over Redtooth Vanguard, which is solid when you have a lot of rolls for recursion over the long game, but again, really missing on that interaction. So Curse of the Werefox it is. Pick number 6, very happy to take another Hollow Scavenger. I know we have a lot of 3-mana creatures here, but now we do have at least Utopia Sprawl to try to skip over 2 mana, and this card is just so good and so synergistic that it's worth running a lot of 3-mana creatures for. The main other card in competition, since we don't really care about the ramp or fixing right now, is the Back for Seconds, which is like really good late game graveyard recursion. Nice 2-for-1 there to bring you back in the game, get you ahead in card advantage, but I don't think we need more of that kind of stuff. I'm going to take more great cheap cards like the Scavenger. Pick number 7, Wicked Visitor, Root Rider Fawn, and Sky Beast Tracker are the on-color cards. Root Rider Fawn just significantly better than the other two, so we'll take that. Pick number 8, we do find another Ferocious Werefox, so we'll slap it in. And we made it. We're at 28 playables, so we're going to get to cut most of our filler and have a perfectly solid deck here. I do find 3 Bowls of Porridge to be just way too slow in almost every game, so I'm not a big fan of that. And Sugar Rush also, just a really dirtily combat trick. I like our non-creatures better than these, so I'll just take Territorial Witchstalker. So we do have the option of going deep on this, running 3 4-power Werefoxes and a 4-power Outrider and a 6-power Glutton to try to get there. It's probably going to get cut, but having the option is nice. Pick number 10, another Genealogist is just going to get cut, another Return from the Wilds is just going to get cut, and Garruk's Uprising is not consistent enough, so it's just going to get cut. We have 5 cards that trigger it. Not enough here, so take something. I guess I might as well rare draft the uncommon for Vault Progress here. If you ever get to the point where you are just rare drafting, always just hold down that Alt key, and it'll tell you how many out of 4 you have in your collection. If you have all 4, then it'll give you the check mark, and if you have all 4 of everything, just take the highest rarity card so that your vault fills faster, and you get your wild cards faster. Pick 11 now. Not going to play Admirer or Return from the Wilds, or Up the Beanstalk probably, but I'll take the Up the Beanstalk because it's the coolest card and the highest rarity for Vault Progress. And that is gonna end this draft. So we have 46 cards here. We get to cut 6 out of this deck. I think I'm going to go for your very basic, very average 15 to 17 creature deck. That is the standard, and probably closer to the 17 creatures, because I do like our creatures better than some of our more filler non-creatures. So I think that'll be the easiest way to cut things down here. So checking the counts and making sure to treat Welcome to Sweet Tooth as an additional creature, our counts are currently 20 creatures, 9 non-creatures. So we'll get 2 cuts, 3 creatures and 3 non-creature spells. Or if we do find that we feel the creatures are more filler, we could cut 2 more of those and 2 less non-creatures. So let's start off with the creatures. I think we're going to get rid of the Territorial Witchstalker package, because I don't want to run Verdant Outrider because it's pretty weak, being a 2 toughness card for 3 mana. Trades down into 2 drops quite often, and sometimes it even trades into 1 mana cards, which is real bad. So you only really want it if you have like multiple Witchstalkers, multiple Outriders, and you really want to hit that power 4 or greater. And I just don't think we're there, so we'll cut the Witchstalker Outrider combo. And that makes it so we only have 4 2-mana creatures, one of which I'm very much considering cutting, which is the Scarecrow Guide. 1 toughness creatures being very flimsy in this format. Can't even block a rat token, can't attack into a mouse token. It can get killed by a Flick a Coin, which we talked about earlier in the draft, or a Rat Out, which is -1/-1 and make a rat token. So there's a lot of really ways to clear this card out, and we do not have a 3rd color to splash for. So I don't think it's quite worth it, and because we're cutting this, that leaves us with 3 2-mana creatures total, which means that Red-Toothed Genealogist can basically never be played for 3 mana, because we are not going to have a 2-mana creature on board that often. I guess there's 4. So Genealogist needs to be sitting up here with the 4-mana creatures in terms of when we're probably actually casting it, since it can't put the roll on itself. So let's drop that guide now, and those would be the 3 creatures that we cut. Take a peek through our other creatures on curve, but I'm pretty sure those are the 3 that I would say are the weakest. Yep, all of our 3-mana creatures are actually just quite good. And then Genealogist and Fell Horseman, I think, are the most dirtily weakest creatures we have left. But with double Root Rider Fawn and a Utopia Sprawl to get up to some of those higher mana costs, being able to grind out some value with Horseman seems fine. And I think Genealogist is going to be okay on curve as well. I think this is a fine collection of creatures for me. So then we can cut 3 non-creature cards, or we get to cut this Brave the Wilds since we're not splashing at all. It is still fine for that bargain synergy late game. I guess worst case scenario, you can always like play this instead of your 17th land and treat it like Evolving Wilds where you have to play a tap land for the turn. That way, if you do draw this in the late game and you have a food token or a rat token on the board and you really want a 3/3, you can get one. So I guess I can just cut a swamp for this. Got to keep that forest count high so we can always play turn 1 Brave the Wilds or Utopia Sprawl. And then 2 more cuts to go. Again, no fixing means we don't have the time to dirtle around with Prophetic Prism. And for the last cut, I think I'll go ahead and drop 1 Leaping Ambush. We'll still have 1 to play around with, and if it plays super well, we can put the second copy in over the Grim Search, but I kind of like the idea of being able to grind out the late game with a ton of value, some very clean, very clear 2-for-1s like Rowan's Grim Search and Fell Horseman, alongside tons of incremental value from all these creatures that hit the board with additional tokens like food tokens, rat tokens, all that stuff, rolls going around. So seems like a really solid grindy deck here. We will call it a deck there. All right, here's a look at the final deck list for today. We're on a nice grindy Golgari deck, just showing off the basic Golgari strategy in the format. The really specific one is focused around food tokens in general, with a lot of other ways to use them. So we have some of those cards here, like Welcome to Sweet Tooth, giving us +1/+1 counters for each food token that we have. We've got Hollow Scavenger giving us food tokens and letting us sacrifice those to get extra damage in, and Sweet Tooth Witch doing the same. So that's the general green-black strategy. You get a bunch of food tokens and you have alternate ways to use them, alongside the bargain mechanic on cards like Candy Grapple, making your spell better if you bargain away a food token. But our deck here, we didn't hit any of the really insane food payoffs like the uncommons or anything like that. So we're kind of just green-black token value in general. We've got rat tokens with Lord Skitter's Butcher, Voracious Vermin, and Lord Skitter himself. And we've got roll tokens with Ferocious Werefoxes and Red-Toothed Genealogists. So these are all just giving us that incremental value. If we're trading off into opposing cards that haven't produced tokens, then we're slowly pushing ahead in card advantage over the course of the game with all the slight value gains that we're getting. But we've also got some very obvious ways to just straight up 2-for-1 our opponent. A draw 2 spell like Rowan's Grim Search, you spend 1 card to get 2. And a Fell Horseman, you spend 1 card to get a 3/3 and your best card back from your graveyard. So there is that kind of just grindy value as well. So looks like a pretty decent deck today. It does have 1 bomb rare as well with Lord Skitter that can just win a game by giving us an army of rats. So it's got some good stuff going for it, and I'm pretty excited to see how it does. So without further ado, let's head into the gameplay. Here we are for game number 1, and the lack of a black source is pretty concerning. We do have a turn 1 and 3 play thanks to Hollow Scavenger, but Tempting Apple is an incredibly late game play that's entirely just trying to end the game. So without a black source, this hand has very little action. That said, when we find the black source, it's going to be really good, so I'm going to gamble a bit on this. Like, Hollow Scavenger is one of the best creatures we could have for a hand that only has 1 creature, so we'll roll with it and see if the Hollow Scavenger can carry us for a little bit, or if we can just naturally find a black source. And luckily we do find a Genealogist. That is a solid pickup here, to make sure that we've got a turn 3 and a turn 4 play. We are playing against red-white, definitely in the top 2 most aggressive color pairs in the format, so it might be worth it to just sack our food immediately, since we're not doing anything else with this 2 mana. Still think I'm not quite going to do it, because it does only cost 1 mana to give this +2/+2. Yeah, and if they're going to miss a 2-drop, I think we should be fine. So we'll go for the Scavenger here. Maybe they didn't miss a 2-drop. Maybe they do have a 2-mana instant in their hand to just kill our Scavenger. They're just holding up a Torch the Tower or something here. Looks like they are not. All right, happy with that. Red, white, and black, those are the 3 most aggressive colors. I was going to say the most aggressive color pair is red-black. Second most aggressive is red-white. Actually, that might be wrong. Those might be flipped. They're both absurdly aggressive. in this set. So being all three of those colors is kind of scary, but naturally the 3-color decks, because sometimes they miss their land drops, they miss the correct colors, those tend to be naturally a little less aggressive than any of these 2 colors individually. So, I mean, we're doing fine. They have not gotten to play a 2 or 3 mana spell yet, which means we're the aggro deck, because their board is a 1/1. Our board is 6 power. They could have a Kellen's Lightblades here, maybe, to deal 3 damage to an attacking creature. We do have Ward 1 on the Scavenger, so they'll have to tap out for that, and then we could just sack the food token to make it bigger, so it wouldn't even work on board. Oh, they're going to Grim Search and bargain off the Ginger Brute, so a little bit of desperation there, trying to find some cheap interaction, facing 6 damage on our board. They are not having fun over there. Alright, I'm just going to keep the food token here. Against white and red, being able to +2/+2 at instant speed's pretty big, because they both have damage-based removal. Even against black, one of the best black removal spells in the format is Candy Grapple, and if I keep the food token around, they're going to have to bargain a Candy Grapple to kill a Scavenger. Like, yeah, I do have a backup Leaping Ambush, but if I can save the Scavenger without spending an entire card, then I will, so I'll keep the food on board to maybe not have to spend this combat trick to save it from a Candy Grapple or a Torch the Tower or anything like that. Kellen's Lightblades be another one. If they do bargain with a Kellen's Lightblades, that is just destroy an attacking or blocking creatures, they'd still get it. They're just passing turn again. At least passing to main phase 2. Well, so far so good. The mono green hand has absolutely done its job, making us to the swamp here. Or getting us to the swamp here. I think it's less about how good the mono green opener was and just more how not great our opponent's opener was, looks like. There's a Stroke of Midnight, which is destroy a permanent, so I cannot save the Hollow Scavenger here. I do get a 1/1 back out of this deal, so this isn't horrible for me. But that does kind of make me wish that I played the Vermin pre-combat. Yeah, I should have played Vermin pre-combat in case they had Kellen's Lightblade specifically. Now, because it was Stroke of Midnight, where they could have just done it at instant speed, they could have still Stroke of Midnight before the Vermin hit the board anyway. But we were not going to cast a Tempting Apple, so I don't think there was a reason to hold that mana up there. Shrouded Shepherd, give our board -1/-1. That is not that bad, thanks to Leaping Ambush. Still not great, we are losing our tokens, but we got those tokens off of our other cards. Like, we got one from Stroke of Midnight and one from Vermin, so we haven't really lost more than one card here. We just traded our combat trick for their Cleave Shadows, pretty much. So that was fine, and now this can't even block, so they're already a really bad spot. I can hit for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 off of Tempting Apple, so that just straight up ends the game. The apple, very similar to the Twisted Fealty in that it just ends games out of nowhere. We are starting things off 1-0 heading into game 2. Here we are on the play for game 2 with a very simple keep. This is just a snap keep here, really. We get to Bakery Raid into Fawn and then have plenty of options of what we want to do after that. Probably starting with the Hollow Scavenger here, although I could just run out a 4/3 Trample. Give up on the guard change monster roll value just to speed up the game and try to take a really aggressive position here. Go for pure mana efficiency, then potentially do 5 mana worth of cards next turn. A 3-drop and a 2-drop. I don't hate it, honestly. Sure, let's just get real aggressive. Let's just play the Werefox. and just beat down on the play with a turn 2 mana dork. If we can start spending 5 mana worth of cards or start playing 5 mana worth of cards next turn, it's going to be devastating. Okay, we didn't hit a land, so we can't do 5 mana worth of cards, but we can absolutely just candy grapple this Lookout and stop our opponent from drawing any extra cards here, which is certainly worth it. And we can also play a Root Rider Fawn this turn, so we can do 6 mana worth of cards next turn if we hit a land. If we don't have a 2-drop anymore, so we can't do 5 mana worth of stuff. Protective Parents, just a 3/2. It puts a young hero roll on something when it dies, but they obviously have no other creatures on their board right now, so I don't think it matters. I kind of like going for the Sewer King here to get as many rats as possible over time. And then just attacking with everybody, honestly. Because they probably should just trade with the Werefox, so we get 2 extra damage by attacking with the 2 Fawns. They can choose to kill a Root Rider Fawn without losing a creature, but then they have to go down to 11, which is a pretty huge hit. And they do choose that, alright. I think we're pretty cool with that. There's a Knight of Doves, so when they do get an enchantment on the board, they're potentially replacing whatever it's enchanting. Put a Bloodline on it to make it a 3/5. Try to just juice up the blocker here. Alright, I see you. We did hit the land, which is slightly awkward since we lost the Root Rider Fawn, because now we could play 6 mana stuff, but let's see. They've got a 3/5, so we're not really attacking unless we hit a combat trick or like a Tempting Apple or something, so let's dig for it then, right? And we can dig with the Butcher. I think that auto tap is correct since Fawn is green mana. Find a Vermin. Okay, Vermin is actually quite good on this board. My issue with it is that we can't cast it immediately. It is kind of the only issue though, right? Yeah, Vermin with the Sewer King is pretty good. Alright, no attacks, but our board is going to be too big for our opponent at some point. And here's where our lack of interaction might become a pretty big deal. Kind of had to kill the Lookout. Don't hate that I killed it. But we just can't get through a 3/5 now. Like, if we didn't kill the Lookout, then the Lookout would be a... what, a 4/5? But then I guess we could have grappled the Lookout that had a Bloodline on it. So it would still put us in basically the same spot, since this can just come back from the grave anyway, later. I don't think we block here. We just let the 5 through. Currently, this is like the one turn they can actually get damage in, so we should be fine. Stockpiling Celebrant. Pick up the Shepherd? So we can't play Vermin, I guess? Sure. So if I play Vermin, then the Shepherd kills it now. So they have that threat in their hand to slow me down. There we go, that's perfect. Okay, that should be good enough. I guess not quite, because they can double block it with 2 3/2s. So it's not going to kill the Knight of Doves. I think it's still pretty good here, though. One of the better draws for certain. Sacking a rat there because we get replacement rats, and this Sweet Tooth Witch might be our best way to win the game if they can clear our Glutton out. Just getting a way to damage them even without attacking is pretty nice. Well, they do have a Cooped Up, but they are going to use it on Lord Skitter. Stop us from getting the rat army. I guess they don't have a black source for the -1/-1 to everybody, so I probably shouldn't have worried about the Cleave Shadows. It was still right to play Hamlet Glutton last turn either way, but if we didn't draw the Hamlet Glutton, I might have just not played Vermin because I was scared of them Cleave Shadowsing, but they don't have any fixing, so they don't have Cleave Shadows mana. All right. That's the 6th mana to double spell for the turn. So we get to kill Celebrant and Parents or just Knight of Doves. I think either of those occurring is pretty good for us, but will be even better if I play Vermin out first. So I get at least 1 counter off of it. I guess I might not get a counter on it. Technically, they don't have to kill Hamlet Glutton here, but I'm pretty sure it's going to die. All right. They do that to put an aura on the dove. So they'll get another. Yeah, so they'll get another dove when that one dies. And they could start beating down on this guy and getting +1/+1 counters. If they do that, though, they are really dead. They kind of need the blockers here. They're at 9 life, and they are going to have 3 blockers on board, depending on what they drew. So block, block, block. Take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Lethal on board if they didn't hit something. Clothier works. That's enough. Clothier plus Shrouded Shepherd is enough blockers to not die here. If they attack with a single creature, we can still just kill them on board. So if they see that, they're not going to attack at all. If they don't see that, then we just win the game. All right, we win the game. Oh, we really win the game if they double attack. Oh. All right, this is still lethal. I'll do... Oh, well, that definitely makes it lethal either way, but just for the sake of it, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep. It's lethal without the ambush. Well, we never did get to kill the Knight of Doves, but get to sneak past it by clearing out multiple blockers with a Hamlet Glutton and just having a lot of rats left behind from Lord Skitter himself. So great work from our rare there. That is going to bring us to 2-0 after they declare these blocks. Game number 3 now. We are on the play with Minstrosity into Lord Skitter, so a fantastic start for us. And a definite keep. Perfect mana here as well. Playing against the blue deck that starts with a turn 1 Snare Master Sprite, so our Minstrosity will have to trade down into a 1-drop potentially, but thanks to its death trigger, that's never really that bad of a deal. Blue-white from our opponent, which could be a deck focused on a bunch of tappers. Ooh, well, Curiosity on Snare Master Sprite is a big enough deal to hold off on Lord Skitter for a turn, I think, and just Curse of the Werefox that. Otherwise, they're drawing 2 cards a turn for the rest of the game instead of the normal 1 card a turn. So we're going to get rid of the Curiosity on a Flyer combo. Now there's Italian's Messenger, so blue, black, white fairies it is. Let's drop Lord Skitter now, again pre-combat because of the beginning of combat trigger to give us a rat. With this Tempting Apple in hand, I think it should be relatively difficult to lose, even against a very good hand from our opponent. So whatever kind of great defensive plays they can line up here, probably going to crumble to the apple. Especially if we make it to 6 mana. It's really hard to beat a 6 mana apple. Steal your biggest blocker, hit you with it, and another 3 damage. Okay, that's just holding up a bunch of mana, so let's just combat before anything else. Play around counter spells and tricks and stuff, see if they want to do anything during combat that we could change with a guard change. Maybe a Candy Grapple on Lord Skitter, or a Kellen's Lightblades on Lord Skitter. Now they'll need an additional spell to stop this. So let's see if they have it. If they don't, that is game in our favor. If they do, it's pretty good for them. Yep, that's counter unless we pay 3, so they do get rid of the Butcher and our Werefox. That is the one issue with adventures that target a permanent. If that permanent dies before your adventure resolves, then so does your thing. But they also just countered it. So I guess the other issue is that, like, if they counter the adventure, then they counter the creature too. I was talking about the wrong issue. Okay, either way, they're super mega dead. Let's boop it up. Boop. And I have the 6 mana for the apple too, just in case. Good lord, yeah, that was dirty stuff there. And we are 3-0 heading into game 4. All right, here we are on the play for game 4. One creature with a combat trick and a finisher is real awkward. Brave the Wilds is basically a 4th land, so it's a 4-land opener with 1 threat. I guess I still kind of just roll with it here, but I'm certainly not excited, especially because this creature also loses some value if we don't find another one. I might hold on to the Brave the Wilds here. If we do get Genealogist value, we'll have Bargain Fodder to get a 3/3. So Brave the Wilds can be really good if we flood out. So I can wait till turn 2. And turn 2, if we hit a creature, then we're perfect. We play a creature, and then turn 3 Genealogist is going to be great. If turn 2 we hit another land, then I guess basically anything I draw, I won't want to Brave the Wilds. I guess if I hit like a 4 or 5 mana spell, then we'll play Brave the Wilds next turn, but otherwise, probably just hold on to it. Because cheap creature means we play cheap creature into Genealogist. And land means, well, we don't need more lands from Brave the Wilds. Seems like our opponent has disconnected from the game for now. So we might get a bye for game number 4. Even if we don't, if they do show up right now, it would be incredibly impressive for them to win on the draw after skipping turn 1. It's a bit of a bummer here then. I guess I could have just let my whole rope go down here. I'll expend my whole rope next turn if this isn't the auto kill yet. Alright, it's not the auto kill yet. I'm just gonna sit here then. But I think they're gone. I don't think we can play out a game here. They're blue-white. Oh, they're back. They're back here. I'll 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. I'll just pass. We could take the free win, but we're 3-0 right now, so let's give them a shot here. So I skipped my land drop here. So basically, we still have the advantage of them skipping 1 turn. But we skipped the turn as well, so 2 of us have skipped the turn now. Although I guess it's slightly more than that much advantage because they had to ditch 2 cards. We haven't had to ditch anything for skipping for them. Yeah, we're still heavily advantaged, so this isn't even like that like good guy of a thing to do. They still didn't get to play land 1 and had to discard 2 cards. Okay, maybe they're not here. Highlighted the land. They must be having some kinds of issues technology-wise over there. No, that wasn't great. I mean, we got more prizes, but not the funnest way to get more prizes. We are now 4-0, heading into game 5. Here we are for game number 5. Solid luck continues here. Got a 1, 2, 3, 4 curve. Some Sesame Street magic here. You always love it. That is the wrong land for that curve. That was about to get real embarrassing. Got so excited about this Minstrosity sitting up front, I was like, yeah, we're starting with the black card, right? No, we're not. We're starting with Bakery Raid, then Minstrosity, then Scavenger, then Werefox or Hold Up Guard Change plus Leaping Ambush first. Just cast the Werefox if we don't want to do a trick. Alright, get that Bakery Raid going and pass on through. Turn 1 planes from our opponent. There's another Werefox, so even if we don't get value from the first one, we've got a second one for guard changing. Red-white from our opponent. Most aggressive archetype in the format? Question mark. Yes, no, maybe. Yes, no, maybe so. Vermin's actually a really good draw here. I'd actually rather Vermin than Scavenger right now, since we are offering trades into the ball guest that they are incentivized to take when we're on the play and we went 2-drop, 3-drop. They chose not to trade here, but maybe they would have if we didn't play the Vermin. They do have the Celebration trigger to make that a 3-3 trampler against us. We didn't hit land 4. Slightly awkward, so no Werefoxes here, but we can absolutely guard change, leaping ambush, anything like that. Por qué no los dos? Alright, no blocks at all. They know that we're on green. We can have a million tricks. That's fine. We'll play the Scavenger then and save our 5,000 tricks for next turn. Alternatively, we could play the Fawn to make sure I can cast a 4-3 trample next turn, but with an opponent at 11 and 4 creatures on our board, I'm going to hold up the ability to give trample, the ability to give +1, +3. All these tricks seem like they'll be great uses of our mana. Imadane's Recruiter. Well, that's why they think they can outrace us. They have the best uncommon in the entire set, the Mythic Uncommon. That is a massive issue. So that's going to put us down to 12 here. They're at 11. We are attacking with everybody. We can't kill them. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I can hit for 11. If I top deck a forest, I still don't kill them. Actually, with the food token, I could kill them if they don't block at all. And if they do block, I'm killing enough night tokens to not just die. So there's that. So, I mean, I guess we send in... Yeah, they hit us for 9 next turn off Imadane's Recruiter. If they can go land 2-drop Imadane's Recruiter, I think we still die. It's probably still right. I mean, we're going to Leaping Ambush a blocker up, so we'll have a blocker untapped, at least. Oh, okay, so they're trying to kill us this way. I think we can kill them. Maybe I am still 1 damage off. I can... eat a food and get 1 more damage, so I can do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Oh my god, I am 1 damage off, aren't I? This can only sack a food once each turn, so I couldn't have, like, gotten there off of making another food. I can give Trample to the Vermin, in which case... I poke over for 1 damage there. And then and then I eat the food for more. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, the 1 land from lethal turn. It's nasty. Okay, so if I untap Vermin and I play a Root Rider Fawn, then I have 2 blockers up. They go Recruiter, 1, 2, 3, 4 3-power creatures, of which I can block 2, which means I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Even if they play another creature, I don't quite die if I have 2 blockers up. So we do have to ambush up a blocker and play another blocker. So we just can't quite kill them. So they need like a really good 2-mana spell alongside the Recruiter to kill us. Vigil's a very good one, but I don't think it kills us alongside Recruiter. Which means they need to hold up some blocks, and we might be able to randomly trample for lethal with a guard change. We take 10 damage here and go to 2 life. They're not dead. So they don't attack at all. Well, here's the 4th mana for another guard change. I think I would rather have food plus fawn mana here. But I think we are trying to sneak in some tricks. And worst case scenario, we just like clear out the board. And this is lethal. We've got exactly the mana to do this, thanks to holding fawn up. So we buff the Scavenger, so it's 5 power, make it 6 to trample over for 3, and then we trample over for 1 damage over here, or 2 damage over here. Either is fine. There we go. Close one there. The Imadane's Recruiter showing up, doing its thing. Very, very threatening card, but we do still find lethal for 5-0 undefeated heading into round 6. Here we are on the play for game 6. We have to hit a forest, but if we do, it's Monstrosity and a Genealogist. We have 9 in the deck. And all we're doing is Monstrosity without one. Never mulligan. Mulligans are for cowards today. And we ain't no coward. There's the forest. Here's the Monstrosity, and let's get it rolling. No, they're torching it, which exiles it, and we don't even get a food. Oof. Well, that made this hand significantly worse off of one spell. Oh, and the hatching plans is insane. Okay, never mind. The hand is still good. We hit Vermin. Perfect draws so far. But Torch the Tower into hatching plans is great. Hatching plans making it so any of their bargain spells, which it's already advantageous to sack something for, are incredible. You make your bargain spell better and draw 3 cards. So hatching plans is wild stuff. What do we do here? What do we do here? Genealogist hold up Leaping Ambush seems fine. Get in there, team. We can ambush on blocks if we really want to kill the sprite, which is probably worth it for mana efficiency. Although they'll have a bunch of open mana, so maybe not. Yeah, doing it against a bunch of open blue and red mana doesn't seem the greatest, because they can respond by like torching, bargaining away the hatching plans to kill a Genealogist or something. But having the Leaping Ambush in response to red removal is also great. Alright, well, we obviously let them pay the ward first. But here we go. Get that out of here. No thanks. I'd like to keep my Vermin. Now, my Vermin is a 3-2 on the ground after this turn, so trading a 3-2 on the ground for a 3-2 in the sky, honestly not the worst. It really isn't, but I can also just Curse of the Werefox next turn, so I might as well do that. And keep as many creatures as possible on the board. Seven damage. I can make this 8 damage if I use Guard Change right now. I think I'd rather be able to use that in response to them trying to block something. But I guess I am just going to cast Werefox next turn anyway. Most likely, like more likely than not. I probably should have just cashed in a damage there. Okay, there's an Alchemist. It's a 1-3, but it's a 3-3 any turn when they've cast an instant or sorcery. There's the instant or sorcery of Frantic Firebolt, and I can't save Genealogist with the Werefox because it already has a roll on it. If I give it another roll, then the first one falls off, so that's awkward. Vermin's bigger now, though, which is nice. So they can't block Vermin well. Yeah, I think I am supposed to Guard Change the rats. So I can attack with both of these, so if they do want to chump Vermin, the rat still hits for damage. And I don't want to Candy Grapple a 1-3 that badly. So I'm going to send in the board, drop the Trampler. And yeah, I should have just put the Trample on this thing last turn. With 2 creatures on our board that already had roll tokens on them, the only one that didn't have a roll was the rat, and the odds of getting any value from instant speed rolling onto somebody there was quite low, so I didn't play that out perfectly, but our deck still really did its thing, and we just kind of rolled over there. Just steamrolled on in. Our opponent didn't manage to draw any bargain to go with their hatching plans. That was super awkward for them. They kind of blew the bargain load early with the Torch the Tower, so 6-0 now, heading into game number 7. Here we are on the play for game 7. Were we on the play every single game today? It's kind of crazy. Let's get that food token out of the way. We go Fawn into Scavenger. Playing against a red deck with a turn 1 Spear Guard, a 1-3 Root Rider Fawn on blocks is pretty great against that. And the fact that we have enough mana for basically everything we want to do, even if they kill the Fawn, is nice, because they will likely be tempted to kill the Fawn, since it's holding off the Spear Guard. Playing against a blue-red again. This one a much more aggressive build of blue-red playing a 1/1 haste, and they are going to kill the Fawn. So we get that removal out of the way. Now our Scavenger's slightly more likely to stick around, but we'll see. If they attack in, I'm not going to block at all here. Too many things that could kill it. They are just going to firebolt it. That's fair enough. 3 mana removal for a 3 mana creature. Fine little swing in tempo there. Well, now not having the Root Rider Fawn mana is genuinely taxing us here, because we could have picked up the Scavenger with Horseman and replayed it right now, but instead we have to pick up Scavenger with Horseman and just play a 2-drop instead, hold up the grapple, or just cast a Fawn. And I'm just going to cast a Fawn. We can get the food token and play the Scavenger all in one turn next turn. Easy enough. Johann, Apprentice Sorcerer. That is definitely going to die, because if it sticks around, it can cast a good amount of spells off the top of their library, and every time they do that, they've essentially drawn a card. So this can be a 2-for-1, a 3-for-1, a 4-for-1 or better pretty quickly. So I have 6 mana here, which means I do have the mana to make another food, play a Scavenger, and clear out Johann. Pass from there. Gadwick's first duel, make something a 1/1, and that is going to be the Scavenger. And then on chapter 3, they get to double up an instant or sorcery with mana value 3 or less, a nice little 2-for-1 later. The Diminisher Witch as well, they could bargain something to make something a 1/1, but they've already made the only important creature a 1/1. And now it is time where we could absolutely be flooding out. Yeah, I mean, we kind of already are. We have 7 mana, and we drew 2 Fawns, so we have more mana than we'll ever need. We have to start hitting some spells to get back in this, because our opponent's about to 2-for-1 us again. They're going to scry 2, get any extra lands onto the bottom of their library, and then they're going to get to double up an instant or sorcery, so we are falling behind in card advantage quite quickly, even with the Fell Horseman play. Alright, and there we go. That's a good start. That's definitely a spell. I'm a little scared about all the open mana from blue-red. Plenty of instants in the color pair, but I think it's still worth attempting to get a 2-for-1 to swing things back a little for us. So send in the Fawn, the Horseman. Honestly, send in the board. I'm going to have a 4/3 blocker up. It's not going to block Witch, but my current board doesn't block Witch super well either. Best block against Witch is to go eat the food on Scavenger and trade. Here's Werefox versus Witch. See what happens. If they do have the instant speed removal for the Fawn, okay, well that would have just countered our creature anyway. Alright, that's not horrific for us, because the Root Rider Fawn wasn't that valuable of a creature to lose in the first place. So, basically just lose the Werefox. And we would have lost the Werefox, even if I just tried to hardcast it. What I would have been really sad about is if they did have instant speed removal for Fawn, so that they kill Fawn and Werefox, and they wouldn't have killed both if I just hardcast the Fawn, you know? Ooh. Double Ride the Rails for big damage? Alright. That is significantly less bad than I thought the first duel was going to be. I really just didn't want it to be a cheap removal spell getting doubled up, clearing out our whole board off of that, so I think we could still come back here. We're certainly behind. But potentially not forever. And so far our draws are solid. So we'll see if we can't keep that going. I've got a 4 toughness blocker. Not great against the Daredevil, but I can block that with somebody else. Trade the Horseman into the Daredevil. And then our 3/2 Scavenger holds everybody else off. And they're already not attacking, so we've got all the time in the world. Alright, there's another Scavenger. I don't think I'm attacking in either, because I don't really want to trade what is essentially a 5/4 into a 4/2. So we're just gonna keep playing Scavengers all day long. And I also don't really want to attack with Horsemen, because I would much rather trade my 3/3 into their 4/2 than into their 3/2. I guess it might be fine to send in Hollow Scavenger. The 1/1 Hollow Scavenger, that is, the cursed one. trade a food into anything. But the food are valuable. There's Werefox. It's big if their last card in hand isn't an instant. Got a lot of food tokens, so I've got a bit of playing room here, a bit of leeway to not just get completely crushed if I attack too hard, but I still do want to hold up multiple blockers here. Let's see if this works out for us. And it does! Alright. Excellent work from the second Werefox, making up for the poor time that the first one had. And now we have grounded out. We are ahead here. Same amount of lands for each player, but our board state is significantly better, and Lord Skitter's Butcher's a great draw. 9 life. We might just kill them with that, honestly. They can only block, yeah, they can only block 1 creature if I just play this on Menace. Just trying to really make sure there, because if we're not going to, like, straight up lethal them off of Lord Skitter's Butcher, then it is significantly better to, like, sack a 1/1 Scry 2 draw card. I don't think we want to sack the Root Rider Fawn, because if we sack this, we give them a card as well. But yeah, I just really wanted to make sure that giving the whole board Menace would be lethal, so it would. They block 1 creature. So block the biggest Scavenger, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, might have been lethal without the Butcher. It would have been close, but it's definitely lethal with it. And that brings us all the way to the final boss. We are... Oh, that was the final boss. Free draft, let's go. We get 950 gems and 2 packs. It was the easiest little time there. All right. Yeah, we got all the gems to play another draft now, thanks to getting the full 7-0. And we got some extra value as well. We got to keep all these cards. I forgot that was the final boss. I guess it's because one game wasn't a game. Our opponent just never showed up. So we're technically 6-0 right now, if you count games that we actually played. That's why I thought it was only game 6. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, that was a little sad, but we probably would have got a 7-win run no matter what, because we would be 6-0 right now with 3 rounds in the chamber to try to find our 7th win, so... Really sweet stuff. Very nice return to the Wilds of Eldraine format. We got to draft my favorite archetype in the format, which is the green-black food grindy token value decks. As you can see, they can absolutely play an aggressive game plan, especially when the bots give you the triple Scavenger. That was a really important, really good card for the deck. But getting the Werefox damage in later was great too. The Gluttons to grind out the long game are great. And yeah, everything about the deck played super, super well. For the biggest overperformer, I'll probably give it to the Werefoxes here. I was considering them as just like decent filler along the power level of Red Tooth Genealogist, but they were pivotal in multiple victories for us. I think that last Werefox that we cast, the guard change to break through with one of the Hollow Scavengers in the final boss, was really pivotal. That put us super far ahead and gave us just a ridiculous board state, even if we didn't draw into the Lord Skitter's Butcher the next turn. And the Werefoxes were pivotal at outracing the Boros opponent, being able to actually trample over for lethal there and have the solid out for victory against the Imidane's Recruiter. So really big pivotal moments from the Werefoxes. They did also have some really bad times where our creature that we targeted was killed before they resolved, so the Werefox went to the grave. They got countered twice, I think, stuff like that. So there were some bad plays from the Werefoxes too, but I think the really good just victory moments from them were absolutely worth it. And for the biggest underperformer, honestly, I didn't hate what anything did, but it was probably the Root Rider Fawns. I mean, we found some extra mana from them here and there, but they kind of just sat there most of the time as 1/3 bodies. I guess the mana was also pivotal in the victory against Boros. We needed enough mana to cast 2 guard changers and eat a food. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe that's not the biggest underperformer. Maybe it's like Brave the Wilds, because we only drew it once and it was basically just a land, but even then, I kind of already knew that about the card. I was really just running it over the 17th land, so I don't think anything did horrific in here. Maybe Grim Search, because it never showed up. But yeah, just really solid stuff from a really solid deck. Get a full-on 7-win run, and that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel and the link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.